I'm an existing Apple Mac Mini M2 Pro user. So I've already sort of invested into the Apple Silicon world in various different forms. And I absolutely love my Mac Mini. It's something I create videos on. It's something I browse the net on. It's not something I use virtual machines on, Apple restrictions. Um, uh, but it is something that I use every day. It's my primary Apple workstation. So is it worth upgrading to M4? And how is the pricing? So I'll try and discuss that as quickly as possible. So the first thing to know is that if we go to the Mac Mini YouTube page for the announcement video, I'd watch that 12-minute announcement. So as you can see, here are the absolute limits for the machine. It's a smaller physical design. You've got Thunderbolt 5 on the M4 Pro version. You've got up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory and 8 terabytes of SSD, but you're going to pay for both of those, and I've got comments about that in a second. You've got up to a 14-core CPU, and you can, of course, connect your peripherals. Obviously, you can only use a biometric logon with an Apple keyboard because Apple restricts that sort of thing. And so bear that in mind, because that keyboard is actually in the UK. That's about £200 keyboard, believe it or not. Nevertheless, the Mac Mini remains your sort of gateway, your entry-level gateway into the Apple world. And for that reason, I think it's worth realizing that it's the sort of cheapest entry, because you could take your regular keyboard, your regular mouse, and your regular screen and just plug it into a Mac Mini. And that gets a lot of people started. And I think that's a much worthwhile entry point than buying a laptop, for example. It's just cheaper. So let's go back to the configuration page, and you'll see, if you press the pre-order button, that you've got all these different models to choose from. Now, I still maintain that the entry-level system, now complete with 16 gigs of memory, but a miserly 256 gigabytes of storage, is the one to go for, because, scroll, $599. So that's not a bad price for a machine of this power and caliber. And don't forget, you're getting these 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and you are getting a gigabit Ethernet port, should you need that. Now, of course, the storage is woefully inadequate, and if you go through the configurator to increase that storage for your custom build, you're just going to be blowing past the $599 to a much higher price. So what can you do? So the answer is you'd attach a Thunderbolt storage device, and I have a prop, and here is that prop. So this is just recently retired from my Mac Mini, a TerraMaster. It's a D2, and that comes with its own like mini dock at the back. So you've got Thunderbolt in. You can attach a, very unlikely, but if you had a Thunderbolt screen, you could attach that. It also gives you an Ethernet and some USBs, but primarily it's a disk store where you can store 2 3.5-inch drives. So you could add, for example, 2 full 4 terabyte SSDs. So you could even add, as in this case, it's got a 10 terabyte and a 12 terabyte hard drive. So it's 22 terabytes of spinning disk there. So I'd recommend, if you want to get into Apple, you'd start off with a Mac Mini 4 and you'd buy an external storage device. And then, if you want more port expansion, you can buy a Thunderbolt dock. So you connect the Mac Mini to your Thunderbolt dock. From the Thunderbolt dock, you connect the storage, for example. That's your sort of decently priced way to get into Apple, if you like. But I'm already into Apple, and so what have I got? I've currently got a Mac Mini M2 Pro, so my eyes are on the M4 Pro. So you're not talking $599, you're not talking $799, you're not talking $999, you're talking $1,399, and that's the entry level price. But if you go into the build button, you'll find out that the configuration that I would love is going to blow past that price. So you'll see that the price that I've got on the screen is $2,499, and you're thinking, how on earth is that possible? So just going through the options, you can have a slightly more powerful processor. It's worthwhile specifying more memory. Now, 16 gigabytes is good to get you going, but as any systems go, I would tell you, solid state, best to have more memory. But Apple does charge you for that. So it's charging me a huge amount of memory for that, amount of cost for that. In terms of storage, like I say, I've bumped the storage up to 1 terabyte, but I would suggest that most of your external storage is on a Thunderbolt connected SSD or NVMe drive. And you're liable on that external drive to, let's say, get up to, let's say conservatively, you should be able to hit 1000 megabytes per second. Whereas on these locally attached, these motherboard attached drives, you could be up to 4000 megabytes per second. But hey, 1000 megabytes per second, it's pretty fast. Spinning disks around 250, so you're 4 times as fast as any spinning disk. And then, of course, you've got the gigabit Ethernet, which is important to me since we run 10 gigabits, in the sort of server side and the workstation side of our IT infrastructure, and gigabit Ethernet everywhere else. What more is there to say? Well, I think again, at the price, it's expensive, but quote, a good deal for this pro level device. I've gone onto my favorite website for benchmarks, and you can see that I've got an M2 Pro here. So this is, by the way, cpubenchmark.net. But the M2 Pro, the M3 Pro, and the M4 Pro is not announced, but I give it, let's say, 10% speed advantage. And I compare that with my Intel server, which is based on that. And you'll see that actually the Intel server is at the moment stronger than the Apple computers. But with the M4 Pro, I'm hoping this will probably match it. That's a Minisforum server, and it's all in less than £2,000, by the way. So again, Intel is obviously way cheaper than Apple, but it can't do some of the video editing things that Apple does with any degree of ease. I'm probably one of the only people can say not only what Apple Mini am I going to buy, but what country am I going to buy it in. So for my own amusement, I thought, oh, do you know what? I will look up the Apple price in at home in Switzerland. And I'm in for a bit of a surprise. So the first surprise was that the price in francs, it used to be that 1 franc, so £1 was, let's say, 1.6 francs. But now, thanks to Brexit and other calamities that have hit our island nation, £1 is something like 1.1 Swiss francs. Soon, I'm fully expected to become on par, and that'll be when every entrepreneur and every person who's not having to stay in the UK probably leaves. But that's another story. But you'll see that the price in francs is very close to the price in GBP. And then, to my horror, I found out that the price of AppleCare, which I would never normally order, but the price of AppleCare for 1 year in Switzerland is 99 francs. And the price of AppleCare for 1 year in the UK is only £34. So there's a massive disparity for AppleCare. And that means to say that if I had to choose, and I can choose, I will order the Apple Mac Mini in the UK, should I be so bold. So it's very unexpected. Perhaps people in Switzerland are just more clumsy, and Apple has priced the AppleCare accordingly. So we're back to the Mac Mini. I think it's an incredible machine. It's your entry level into Appleness. You'll find that the entry level machine at only $599 is by far the best value machine ever. But don't be fooled. Once you start to add things onto this machine, the price just escalates beyond your wildest dreams. And in my case, to get the pro level machine with the 10 gigabit networking and a large amount of RAM memory, which may be able to run a virtual machine, probably only an Apple machine, because of course Apple restricts everything. But still, that is still a very, very powerful machine. And I would still recommend you not connecting your laptop into multiple screen setup. If you're going to do creative work, you're going to have a desktop machine dedicated to that. You come in and you do that. You don't dock your laptop in and do all those sorts of things. I don't think that's very productive. So that's it. M4 Mac Mini. It's announced on Tuesday, October the 29th, 2024. I do recommend you look at it. Please look at the announcement on YouTube and make your own mind up as to whether this is for you or not. Thanks for watching.